The Shadow of the Father, Jan Dobraczyński. Part 1, The Wife. Chapter 5. The dawn came as suddenly as the dusk before. A consciousness woke him up that something had happened. He opened his eyes and he saw a stranger at once, who was telling him with a shaking spear to lie down still. Two other men stood at the burned-out fireplace looking at the other men, travelers, who were asleep. He had no doubts about those people's identity. The sun burned their faces, their beards were tangled, and they wore animal skin kaftans. They were armed. The smaller one was holding his spear in the way that indicated his readiness to strike. The taller one, that seemed to be their leader, had a sword. The first one jumped at Joseph like a cat. He hissed, "Do not move and be silent if you want to live." Joseph did not move at all. After a while, he noticed that his companions also had been awakened. Yet everybody remained motionless. The man with the spear was watching them and pointing his weapon towards anyone who thought of moving. "Easy," the taller robber said. "Who moves will die. I want only the money. If you give it to me without any resistance, you will leave. You first." His hand pointed to the merchants. One of the merchants was mumbling something, but the one with the spear jumped close at him and put the blade at his throat. "Be quick," the taller one said. He snarled something at his companion. The other one, while still holding his spear, in his right hand, reached for the basket lying on the ground. He approached the travelers one by one, demanding their purses. When he received them, he put them into the basket. Meanwhile, the taller bandit was watching that nobody moved. He was not taking his eyes off the people lying on the ground. He repeated menacingly, "Stay calm. One move and I will cut you." The merchants were groaning while handing over their money, and now the man with the spear approached the Pharisee. "I am Rabbi. I proclaim the highest teachings. He will punish you if you rob me." The lying man was resisting. The man with the spear looked quickly at his companion. The other one yelled, "Take it from him. He is telling us about the highest, but he is thinking of himself. Take it. And if he does not give it to you, put your spear in his throat. You will see. You will be punished," the Pharisee said, while handing over his purse to the bandit. His companion Judah moved. The robber jumped at him and put his foot on his chest. He saw the hidden sword behind his head. He threw it away with a quick move. "You are lucky. You did not try to strike. Give me the money." Judah gave his purse without a word. "Now you," the bandit called out the while putting his spear point at the peasant's chest. "Have mercy," the peasant whimpered. "Have mercy on me. I am a poor man. I have nothing. Give us what you have." "Wait," the tall one said. "Over there is a boy. He says he has no money. Give us the boy then." "Have mercy," the woman yelled and stood up. "Have mercy. That is my son, sir. That is my son." Hit her over the head. The older one roared. The smaller one kicked the woman's belly until she fell down. When she tried to get up, he kicked her again. He stepped on her throat, but he could not get the boy because his hands were holding something else. He put the basket on the ground and grabbed the boy's hair. The boy screamed and pressed himself to his father. In order to reach the boy, the bandit took his foot off the woman's chest. She grabbed his coat. He turned himself, trying to strike at the woman with his spear. Joseph grabbed the spear very quickly. "Kill him," the taller bandit screamed. The smaller one emitted a furious shout. He tried to pull his spear out of Joseph's hands. Joseph did not know how to fight, but working since his early years made him strong. He was known for it, and often in Bethlehem they used to call for him to lift something heavy. He would go because he was always ready to serve others. He turned that spear instinctively, like a mill. He not only pulled it out of the robber's hand, but also forced him to the ground. The second bandit came up with his sword in hand, but seeing how easily Joseph disarmed his companion, he stopped. "I will kill you," he called out, trying to scare him with his shooting. By now all the men had stood up and grabbed their sticks. The Pharisee companion picked up his sword. The bandit realized he had no chance to resist and ran away. The smaller one followed him and did not even try to pick up his plunder. Joseph threw the spear away and bent over the lying woman. She was bleeding. She was cuddling her crying boy and sobbing at the same time. "Did they hurt you?" he asked. "They have not taken my Dismas." She started crying and smiling at the same time. "You have saved him, sir." She grabbed Joseph's hand and wanted to kiss it, but he pulled it away and stepped back. He said to the peasant, "Give her some dressing. Do you have some olive oil?" "I do, sir, I do," the peasant quickly assured. Now he was full of submissiveness and apprehensive respect. "I will do as you wish, sir." The merchants got back their purses. They were whispering knowingly amongst themselves for a while. Then the black-bearded one came closer to Joseph. "We wish to thank you for your protection," he said. "Would you accept a few shekels as a sign of our gratitude?" He shook his head. I do need, I do not need your money, but they are beautiful silver shekels, the merchant said, pouring them from one hand to another. Look, you can buy many things with them, for yourself and for those close to you, and we won't thank you if it was not your courage. The highest saved you, he cut in. But if you wish to thank him, give your money to the poor instead. He walked away and started watering his donkey. He was about to mount it, but he stepped when he noticed that others were not doing the same. Instead, the caravan participants were talking shrilly about what had happened, with no intention of preparing for further journey. Even the Pharisee and his companion joined the group as if they forgot briefly about being detached, and the only clean ones. Nothing could stop them in that brisk conversation. They all were talking at the same time, gesturing and shooting over one another. It seemed to have no end. Finally, when they decided to break the conversation and move on, the sun was already high in the sky, and the heat was becoming unbearable. The road led further along the Jordan River bed, the river that runs down at the outskirts of the desert. The road led always uphill. The wall of brushwood ended, and so did its shadow. And the contrast, the desert was blowing with all its heat. The ravine became deeper. As they walked further, entangled array of an emerald strip of dwarfish thorns and tamarisks were at their feet that created a long carpet where the meanders of the river embroidered a pattern. The pale red mountains were piling up on the other side of the valley, similar to those on their side. On the rocky terraces, some settlements were scattered here and there. If they wanted to reach them, they would have to leave the road and go uphill. They continued along the road, and in spite of that heat, they were trying to reach the ford at the Jacob stream quickly, just before the night falls down. However, when the wave of the heat came to its peak, they had to stop for a rest. The only protection they had was protruding rock with a narrow strip of shadow and its base, as if a fallen piece of clothes. The people gathered tidily into a shadow, and they lay down, breathing heavily. Joseph leaned against the rocky wall with his leg bent. There was no more space for the donkey, therefore it just hid its head in the shadow. Although they departed late and they had not walked very far, Joseph felt quite exhausted. He watched the woman with admiration, who, being beaten and heavenly cuts on her body, had not stopped caring for her son. She cooled him with a fan, and she moistened his lips with the juice of a wild lemon. The boy looked very pale and weak, though. Sweat was running down his cheeks. This time Joseph saw that his father was also showing him some care. The space in front of him seemed to be vibrating from the heat. Thoughts were flowing lazily, and his head was full of rumble, as if from a hand mill turning around. "We also wish to thank you," he heard suddenly. Being surprised, he turned his head. The Pharisee and his companion approached Joseph and sat down in the shadow next to him. This time he did not notice any contemptuous smiles on their faces. "I have not done anything special," he said. "We thought you were a simple peasant," the Pharisee said. "You spoke to that woman, although you should have remembered that all of them are unclean. Yet, I notice you were saying your prayers. You also showed courage and strength." Judah added, "Who are you?" "I am Joseph, son of Jacob. I come from Bethlehem." "Would that mean that you come from the royal family?" Disbelief sounded in the rabbi's voice. "It is as you said, Rabbi." A short silence fell down. Both of them were looking at Joseph and paying more attention than before. The Pharisee started again. "My name is Saduk." He bowed his head humbly. "I am glad to meet you, Rabbi." "Yes, now I see you are not peasant." Saduk's voice sounded increasingly gracious. "But remember, be aware of a peasant woman. That way you will retain your cleanness." "A man like you does not have to look at them," Judah added. "Tell us, who is the head of your family?" Saduk asked. "My father Jacob, son of Matan." "And you might be his son, the oldest one?" "Indeed." They looked at each other. "Well, the family of David is old and meritorious," Saduk noticed. "And has Herod never shown any interest in your family?" "I know nothing about that. We are the modest people. I am a carpenter. I have my workshop, and my brothers work in the fields." Of course. The time of your family glory has already passed." "Have you heard that Herod wished to count the Israel population?" Judah asked suddenly. "No. And as I said before, we live far away from the matters of the world. I'm telling you that he wants to do this. He will soon announce his demand for an oath, but in fact, he wants something else. He wants to count the people of the nation. That is a great offense." "A big sin," the Pharisee said. "Most likely you have read about how severely the highest had punished David the king when he had dared to do the same." "I have. By counting his subjects, he was looking for his glory." "The counting itself is a sin," Saduk broke in. "We cannot agree to such counting," Judah continued. "That unclean Idumean wants this counting in order to have an opportunity to rob them later. He already squeezes the last coins out of the nation in order to build cities for the Gentiles. Cities ornamented with sinful statues. The time has been approaching, he broke off, though he was looking at Joseph carefully. It seemed like he was waiting for something. Joseph said, "Praying is needed so that the highest can take sinful thoughts away from the king's heart. And perhaps," Judah said secretly, "a need for fighting will be required. The prediction of the Messiah's coming must be known to you. Is it not?" "Certainly. Israel has waited for him for centuries. In our family, we remind everyone that the Messiah will be David's son. He will be a son by spirit, not necessarily by blood." Sadok stressed his announcement. "He will be a leader, as David was. He will lead the nation to the battle. Those who humiliate Israel today will be humiliated and will lose. When he arrives, he will be like a lion eating its enemies alive." "And have you heard that the Messiah has already been born?" Judah asked again. Joseph shook his head. "I have not heard that, but people talk about him so much these days. I have been told about an old woman who believes that the Highest has given her the promise that she would not die before she sees him." "And she will see him, I assure you," Judah said. "What will you do then?" Sadok asked. "I will follow him, of course," Joseph said. Now he directed his question to the Pharisee. "But will he really be the one who will start the fighting? Who will lead his armies and who will be killing?" "Certainly, he will be like Judah Maccabeus," he assured. "Blood will flow and the valleys will be full for the bodies of our enemies. People like you should stand by him." Joseph said nothing. He did not like to argue or to reject the strong opinion of others. So much had been said recently about the Messiah's coming. He often heard how this daydreaming had adopted the shape of a fever. People were quitting their jobs just to deliberate about where he will come from and what will he be like. And like these two, all of them were assured the Messiah would be a leader who would lead the nation to a victorious battle. He did not dare to doubt the reality of these hopes that all people cherished. He did not share that common enthusiasm though. Is the Messiah supposed to come to start a war? Can this what he is supposed to bring to be done differently and not through blood and killings? Maybe I am stupid, he thought. He loved silence so much, where a thought can mature slowly as if a tree. Unsuccessfully waiting for Joseph's answer, the Pharisee asked, "Where are you heading?" "To Joseph." "To Nazareth." "To Nazareth?" He made a wry face. "What are you looking for over there? That city is full of unclean people, thieves, and dishonest merchants." "Maybe not everybody is like you say," One tar stain makes all sheep dirty. In a mangy flock, each sheep will get scabs. He said that sentence as if reading from a book. I advise you sincerely, stay away from that city. Nothing good comes from Nazareth. If you have some business to do over there, then do it quickly and leave at once. Do not even look back. He wrapped himself with his coat as if being afraid that the stain of uncleanness of the Galilean town would fall on him. His companion was still looking carefully at Joseph. You are brave and strong, though. I saw how easily you took the spear from the other man's hand. The Messiah will need some like you when he will be searching for warriors. I hope you will be there at the time. Listen then. When this man one gives the order for a registry and the fighting starts, go then to Gamaliel. Ask for Judah the Galilean, and you will find me. I will welcome you kindly. The Shadow of the Father, Jan Dobraczyński, Part 1, The Wife, Chapter 6. He stopped at the edge of a slope. The city lay in front of him, plunged between two widely open arms of the hills. The road to Sepharis ran among the houses, and then it meandered through the fields of verdure. A gentle mountain ridge spread out beside and ended with a protruding rock, like an arrowhead. So it is here, he thought. The companions with whom he had traveled departed one by one. The merchants stayed in Pella. Sadok and Judah left him in Sitopolis. Before they left, the Pharisee once more reminded Joseph to stay away from Nazareth. Remember, it is easy to get unclean in that city, he said. Judah slapped Joseph's arm cordially. Do not forget what I have told you, he said. The time is close. It has been approaching. The Messiah is born, and he will call Israel to arms any day. Great glory will be upon those who will join him. I told you how to find me. By then, you will understand many things, so stay well. The peasant family accompanied him the longest. They headed to Bezarach. The man told Joseph he was going there because he inherited a piece of land from his distant relative. They were very poor people until now. They had to work on the lands of others. The man used to go every day to market, hoping some would hire him. But from now, he and his wife will be independent and will be able to work for themselves, although the piece of land is not large. Maybe I will have more sons, the peasant revealed in his dream. When he became garrulous, we only have that one, and he is not too strong. The woman is healthy and not sluggish. Moreover, I have been sick. The Highest has sent a weakness upon me. Joseph thought that maybe he judged the man unjustly when he evaluated his behavior toward his wife, and the child, especially now when little Dismas was walking next to him. He emboldened himself, and he was asking Joseph of something constantly. The woman was following them behind in silence, but when Joseph turned his back, he saw that her warm eyes were watching him closely. Before saying goodbye, the child held out his arms to Joseph. The boy's warm-heartedness surprised him. He embraced and hugged the boy. It was always easy for him to gain children's love, maybe because their matters seemed too high, to him equally important as those of adults. The peasant bowed low at Joseph. From the moment they were attacked, he was showing his respect that almost bordered with worshipping. This time the woman said nothing as well. She made a gesture if she wanted to kiss Joseph's hand. He pulled back, and she did not dare to come closer. He looked at them as they were going down the road. This time the father seated his son on the donkey and himself walked beside the animal. The mother walked on the other side. While watching them, Joseph forgot everything that irritated him about how each of them behaved. Now the trio walking away has awakened cordial feelings in him. He remained long on his eminence looking at the city that had such a bad reputation. Houses ascended on the slope, one above another. The most prosperous ones with terraces on their roofs were at the bottom. The branches of palms, fig trees, and sycamores shadowed them. Higher up the slope, the house became smaller and smaller. At the top, under a step rock, they looked like a grottos, with front wall attached to them. Without doubt, the poorest were living there. Beside the step back, a small footpath zigzagged up to the hilltop that dominated over the city. The hill slopes were green and created a pasture where those who lived under the step rock could gaze the flocks. Once the narrow and stern rocks of Judea were he only view to him. But now he was experiencing a new pleasure in the undulating fields and the greenery of Nazareth. After enjoying the view, he moved downhill. The road led among the city houses and towards a little square surrounded with posts driven into the ground for donkeys and camels to be tied to them. The fronts of palms shadowed the square that obviously was used as a resting place for many caravans that were passing by. The inn was little further, and its clay wall created a large circle. Inside by the wall, there were the porches that had a cane roof, and there were an area for horses and camels in the middle. A large gate was open wide, this time showing that nobody was at the inn. There was a well in the square, center shadowed by the stony arch. Stone steps led to the well. A large watering trough for animals was beside the arch. A forgotten donkey was standing by it. The flies were annoying it, so it used its tail to whip them away. The watering trough was empty. Joseph tied up his loop-eared donkey so that it could stay in the shadow for an old grey olive tree with its trunk patterned with thick ridges of bark. In order to get some water for himself and the donkey, he walked down the stony steps. The well was very deep. When he bent over the shaft, he saw the silhouette of his head somewhere far, far away, and it looked as if in a little window. Heavy bucket made from a hollow tree trunk stood by the well. It had a long rope attached to it. The bucket was made clumsily. When he took hold of it, it occurred to him that he could make a better one, handier and lighter. He was about to lower the bucket down the well when he heard a voice. Somebody was approaching and singing. It was a girl's voice, maybe even a young girl. What she was singing sounded joyfully. He could hear her feet scampering as she lightly ran over the steps. He turned his head. Her silhouette that was against the sky, lit by the sun, seemed almost childlike. She had bare feet with her tunic tucked up. She was carrying a vase on her head, and one hand was supporting it. Despite her quick step, the vase remained completely still, as if grown into it. When she noticed the man standing by the well shaft, she stopped singing, and halted halfway down the steps. He did not notice any fear on her face, only some puzzlement, perhaps. Surely she knew everyone in town. So seeing a stranger here must have surprised her. Her face was the face of a maturing girl. It was not amazing in its charm. She seemed to be a very simple, average girl. The skin of her forehead and cheeks was dark, like the skin of those who work in the scorching sun. Her dark eyes were precipices, like the well where a while ago he had bent over it. The dark blonde hair hanging down her back was tied with a piece of ribbon. Red pendants were adorning her ears. Although her face would not catch anyone's attention at first, then after a while it became riveting. There was a girlish charm on the outside of her. It seemed to be like a blaze that shone outside her. At the same time, it was coming as if from within. One side could be drawn instinctively towards the source of that radiance, and discovered under the layer of childhood a kind of maturity, something like fullness of a hidden life. Now she was walking down slowly. She was looking Joseph questioningly, who still was holding the buckets in his hands. He knew that the women in Galilee were more courageous than Judean women were, but he felt she would believe it improper to speak first to a known man. Joseph was seized by a sudden and incomprehensible intimidation. After what he saw in her face, it seems to him he lowered his eyes. He had no courage to look at the girl any longer. His eyes were stuck to her bare feet. The girl and Joseph were standing opposite each other in silence for a long while. Finally, Joseph overcame the intimidation and he raised his head. He saw that she was wearing a simple, modest, and often washed cotton tunic. Her hands, still holding the vase, were small but strong and used to hard work. The waist had left a few clots of soil in her hair. She is a normal girl, he said to himself inwardly. Her small lips seemed trembling from a smile that she was holding back. Yet he was not trying to look into her eyes. Instead, he spoke facetiously to be in rhythm with cheerfulness that he noticed in her before. What an awkward bucket you have here. Do not you have a carpenter in your town that could make a better one? Now she smiled freely and without any discomfort. There must have been so much joy within her, and that joy desired to show up outside. Yes, the carpenter should have had chopped wood instead of making buckets. But since he had left the town, we have nobody now. Our hands hurt from its weight. It is not easy holding the water, though. I will do that for you if you wish. I would be very grateful to you. He lowered the bucket slowly. The notion of intimidation had not left him yet. That girl whom he felt behind him is someone simple, he kept assuring in himself. She accepted his help without any hesitation. Saddu's words about smiling to a strange woman appeared now in Joseph's memory. A recollection of the city's bad reputation heard so many times has now ignited. Nevertheless, all those warnings died as suddenly as a flame lacking of air. The girl was radiating with such purity, so much so that every bad thought would disappear before being formed. The bucket hit the water surface with the sound of a strong smack. It listed and then it droned. When he started pulling the rope, he realized that the girl's complaint about the bucket's weight was not only a simple call for help. All his strength was needed to raise that trunk filled with water. How would you manage if I were not here? He asked, as he placed the bucket beside the shaft. When I need it, I handle it myself, she replied joyfully. I am not that weak, though my arms do hurt after. The water was very cold. He was pouring it with a silver stream into the vase held out by the girl. "Lend me your vase for a while," he asked. "My donkey is at the top of the stairs. It needs to be watered. Then I will come down and ladle some more water for you." "We will do that differently," she said. "I will go and water the donkey, and meanwhile you get some more water." She lifted the vase and put it on her head. Now she was holding it with two hands, and she was entering the stairs lightly. He stood with the buckets in his hand and looked at her. He saw a red mark on her leg just above the heel. Possibly a thorn of some plant did it. Yes, he was thinking any woman can hurt herself like that. He lowered the bucket into the well again. How much simplicity is in that girl, he thought. He used to meet many of them and speak to them before in Bethlehem. They often would come to his workshop, pretending that they had some business to do, though he felt their parents had sent them hoping that the eccentricity of Jacob's oldest son would be broken by their daughter's beauty and charm. He hardly began to talk with them, and they were already losing their simplicity. They used to giggle and cover their faces, though they still looked at him through their fingers. They whispered things amongst themselves, and they knew exactly what they had come and for and what they wanted. Their childish gestures were only a game. Though this girl is still a child, however, he was still feeling the surprise he experienced when he saw a revealing glimmer of unimaginable maturity in her eyes. It seemed to him he had her behind him. "I watered both the donkeys because I did not know which one was yours. But the bright one must be yours, right? It seemed to be so thirsty." "Yes, the bright one is mine, thank you." "And I thank you for the water. Have you come from far away?" "From Judea." "I know, it is a long way. I walked it once." "Thanks to you, my hands will not hurt today because of the rope," she said while putting the vase on her head. "If I stay in Nazareth, I will make a better bucket." They both left the stony arch. "Are you a carpenter, perhaps? Do you wish to live here?" "I am a carpenter indeed." "Tell me, do you know where the house of Cleophas, son of Gerem, is?" In spite of the heavy load on her head, she quickly turned towards him. "I do." "And obviously you can tell me how to get there?" "Cleophas' house is high up there under the rock." Her hand pointed the direction. "Come with me. Then, if you want to go there, I am going that way." From the well, the paths led uphill over the slope, and without a doubt, the woman who came for the water traded them. The girl entered one of the paths. Meanwhile, Joseph untied the donkey and took its snaffle. He noticed that the sharp burns in its sides that he intended to remove his disappear. He got up with the girl who was still walking lightly uphill. "You cleaned the donkey, it was you. Did you not?" he asked. "Do not be upset. The donkey is so nice. He must have snagged itself." "I am not upset at all. I want to thank you. You have helped me out." She said nothing. She was still maintaining that buoyant walk in balance with the light movement of her body. They already passed the houses of the rich people at the lower level. Up here the people resting lazily on the shadowed terraces were seen. Now the path changed, its curves seemed to be longer. The girl stepped awkwardly in a certain moment. The waist swayed on her head, though she kept it even, and not even a single drop was wasted. It is a tough path, he said. "Allow me to take the waves from you." She released a smile, her silvery smile that had neither emptiness nor malice, just gladness. "Thank you," she said. "You're a good man, but water carrying is not a man's duty. You would not even possibly know how to do it. Anyway, admit it." Her gaiety woke up his laughter. "You're right. I have never carried it your way. So you see, and meanwhile we have already arrived." The path led into a stony heap. Their feet crunched in the stones and gravel. Now they were standing at the very edge of a precipice. Filled-in grottos were before them, as well as buildings that protruded from the rocky wall. Curtains of plaited cane mats obscured the entrances of the houses. The girl stopped at one of them. This house made of clay was miserable, like all of them here. Curled like a snail, a dark grey cat was asleep next to the curtain that covered the entrance. It woke, raised its head, and seeing the girl, it moved friendly. A little bit further, two boys were playing in a sand heap. "Cleophas lives here," she said, and she stopped. He felt regret that they had to separate. He would have been able to walk alone with her endlessly. "And you?" he asked. "Do you live nearby? Will I be able to see you again?" She looked at him with her face, as if his question had amused her. Her lips seemed trembling with a suppressed smile again. She lifted the vase carefully and put it on the ground. "But this is where I live," she said.